There's something primal about being deep in the wild. Every rustle, every distant call, every unexpected moment. You want gear that doesn't just record, but keeps up. That lets you lean into the excitement without wrestling with limitations. Enter the Nikon ZR. Red Nikon Synergy, cinema dies, video power, but can it really be your go-to wildlife video tool? Does it deliver on what matters on the trail when the light's failing, the subject is distant, and the action is unpredictable? Stick around. By the end, I'll tell you exactly who should get this, the Nikon ZR, especially if you already own a Nikon mirrorless camera. Before we begin, for those new to my channel, my name is Terence and I'm a wildlife photographer and videographer here in Singapore. I am currently a Nikon creator with Nikon Singapore, and I've also worked with multiple brands and organizations to create content around wildlife and wildlife photography. Nikon Singapore has been kind enough to loan me a unit of this brand new ZR to test drive for a few days. So let's see how it fares. The ZR is Nikon's most video-focused mirrorless camera yet. That's basically its whole identity. And you notice it right away. The big bright screen that flips any angle. No viewfinder here. It's designed for video shooters who frame with the screen. For me, shooting in bright sunlight or low angles, that's been a game changer. And of course, it shoots in some crazy resolutions up to 6K video, plus slow motion all the way to 120 frames in 4K. In the wild, that means you can actually slow down the movement of birds and animals and see every detail. Autofocus is smarter too. It locks onto animals surprisingly well, whether it's a bird against the sky or a monkey darting through branches. On paper, this camera looks amazing, but here's how the ZR really feels in the field. First, stabilization is excellent. 7.5 stops of IBIS. That's huge for when you're moving through the forest and when you don't want to set up a tripod every few minutes. But paired with something like a monopod, the results are incredible. Let me tell you something that some of you may not realize. Some compact cinema cameras, Canon, skip in-body stabilization, and that makes sense if you're on a movie set with tripods and dollies and jibs and a whole crew to move them around. But out here, it's just me, my camera, and whatever wildlife decides to show up. I don't have a team of assistants following me into the forest, so having stabilization built right into the camera is a lifesaver. It keeps my footage steady without weighing me down with extra gear. And honestly, at this price point, it just feels like a steal. Right now, I've got the Nikon ZR with my 180-600, and I've got a group of Raffles banded langurs, which are a really elusive species of primates here in Singapore. And so it's a great privilege for me to be able to find and see them. But unfortunately, I do not have a monopod or a tripod with me. So let's see how the inbuilt stabilization fares when it comes to filming handheld at a long telephoto distance with these monkeys. So after filming these monkeys for a while with the Nikon ZR, what I found is that handheld, if you're maybe say under 300mm, it actually does work perfectly fine and you get very usable results, very stable footage. But if it's anywhere beyond 300, up to a 600 for instance, the results tend to be really shaky, especially towards the longer end. And so you definitely need some kind of monopod or tripod to stabilize your shots. One of the things that I have to also point out is that because there is no viewfinder, definitely your results will be a little bit more shaky because there is no third point of contact there. So you can definitely get away with handheld with that 7.5 stops of internal stabilization. But of course, a tripod or a monopod would be highly recommended to get more stable footage. Second, the slow motion modes are addictive. 6K, 60p, 4K, 120p, all internally. For wildlife filmmakers, this is definitely a dream. Third, the codecs. This is where things get really exciting. With Red and Nikon teaming up, the ZR inherits a taste of that legendary red color science, and it doesn't disappoint. For anyone who is new to this, rig cameras are a staple in professional wildlife filmmaking. You'll see them out in the field with small production crews because they deliver image quality that's basically unmatched. They are still smaller than giants like ARRI, but let's be honest, they are still bulky, heavy, and not something that you kind of want to hike through a rainforest with on your own. And this ZR changes that. It brings the same RAID-inspired image quality into a body that you can carry anywhere. With the new RAID NE RAW format, you're looking at around 12 stops of dynamic range. Sure, that's a little bit less than RAID's flagship Raptors and Komodos, which push 14 to 16 stops, but in practice, it's still incredible. And here's why it matters. In wildlife filmmaking, you don't get to set up lights or control conditions. One moment you're in harsh sunlight and the next you're in deep shadow. Having the ability to push and pull colors, recover highlights, or bring back detail from shadows is huge. It gives you flexibility when nature refuses to play nice. And that's why I can easily see the ZR working as a B camera on a professional wildlife shoot, or even as an A camera for solo creators who want that cinematic quality without dragging a cinema rig through the jungle. Compact body, RAID level color, and the freedom to move, that's a pretty powerful combination. In front of me up in the trees is a Sunda Kulugo, a classic Singapore forest animal, and I'm going to use the ZR to film it right now. And oh my gosh, I think it has a baby as well. So with Kulugos, they're only active in the late evening, in dusk, or at night. So I'm going to push the ISO of the ZR to its second native ISO, which is 6400, and see how it fares. As you can see, the light levels are quite dim. It's close to 7 PM in the evening. And there are a couple of wild boars in front of me as well, which makes me a bit scared. But the Kulugo is just up ahead right there. I'm just going to get some shots for you guys on the Nikon ZR. You can actually see the baby's head poking out from the mum. That is always such a nice treat to watch. In order to really test the capabilities of the Nikon ZR, I've also brought it out here at night in the forest to see if I can film any of the nocturnal wildlife. Now let's talk about low light. If you're a wildlife filmmaker, you know exactly why this matters. The magic doesn't usually happen at noon when the sun is blazing. It happens in those quiet early mornings, or just as the light fades in the evening, when the jungle wakes up, or when nocturnal creatures start moving. That's when you want your camera to perform. And the ZR holds up beautifully in those situations. The footage stays impressively clean even when the light dips. A big reason for that is because it has two native ISOs, 800 and 6400. Now, if you're not familiar with what that means, let me break it down for you simply. A native ISO is like a sweet spot, the sensitivity level where the camera gives you the cleanest image, the best balance of detail and dynamic range. Having two of those sweet spots means you can switch between brighter and darker conditions without the footage turning into a noisy mess. In real terms, what that means is you can film birds at sunrise without losing shadow detail, or capture a nocturnal wildlife at dusk without your image falling apart. Now, it also goes without saying that audio is half of the video experience. You can have the most stunning visuals in the world, but if the sound is bad, your audience will not stay. And that's why I was really intrigued to see the Nikon ZR include 32-bit float audio recording. If that sounds a bit technical for you, think of it this way. It's like having dynamic range, but for sound. Normally, if something is too loud, your audio clips and becomes unusable. Too quiet and you lose detail. But with 32-bit float, the camera captures such a wide range that you don't really have to worry about clipping or distortion. From the soft rustling of leaves to a bird suddenly calling right next to you, it all gets captured cleanly. I'm also testing this brand new MED10 microphone that Nikon has just released, and is compatible with the hot shoe of the ZR camera without using any wires. So I'm just going to use it to capture some of the sounds of this forest, and you can be the judge. This camera is not perfect though. Battery life is only okay. It uses the same ENEL15 batteries that you see on cameras like the Z6 III. Shooting in 6K or slow motion drains that battery faster, so you'll need extras in your bag. And because there's no mechanical shutter, there will be some compromises when it comes to photography. But honestly, if you are primarily interested in photography, this is not the camera for you. You'd be better off with a Z8 or Z9 or even your Z6 III and Z5 II. Just treat the ZR as a video-centric camera that happens to be able to take some decent stills. There's no full-size HDMI, but the way I see it, most users are not going to be putting a monitor on it since the screen is so large, especially for solo creators. And the second card slot being microSD may also be a limiting factor. Now, the big question I keep hearing, how does this camera compare to the Nikon Z6 III? Both cameras share a similar sensor, so the image quality is close, but their personalities are very different. The Z6 III is an all-rounder. It does both stills and video really well. It has a proper viewfinder, feels more like a traditional Nikon, and it's great if you're shooting both photos and videos side by side. The Nikon ZR, on the other hand, it's a filmmaker's camera. The screen, the codecs, the way it handles slow motion all point toward video first. If still photography is a big part of your wildlife work, the Z6 III will serve you better. But if video is your main focus, then the ZR edges ahead. Think of it this way. The Z6 III is like your Swiss Army knife. The ZR is your sharp, dedicated blade. With both priced similarly, it all depends on whether you favor photography or videography more. So, is the ZR worth it? If you're mainly a wildlife videographer, yes, it's one of the most fun and capable cameras Nikon has made for storytelling in the wild. You get creative slow motion, reliable stabilization, and a body that feels built for adventure. Overall, the Nikon ZR is not trying to be everything. It's not for everyone. It's for the filmmaker who is willing to put in the time to color grade their footage and wants the best video image quality. And here's the thing, I don't think this is the end of the story. At just around $2,200 US at this time, the ZR feels like a steal for what it is offering. Honestly, it feels almost like Nikon is saying, here, try this out, see what we are capable of. I get the sense that this camera is Nikon testing the waters. They are dipping their toes into the cinema world, inviting creators, especially those who might have been loyal to other brands, to give Nikon a serious look. And once people are hooked on this image quality, this workflow, this color science, I can almost guarantee they'll come out with something even more powerful. I wouldn't be surprised at all if we see a bigger brother in the $4,000 to $5,000 range, something packed with even more pro features aimed squarely at the serious indie filmmakers and wildlife professionals who want cinema-level gear in the field. Perhaps something with open gate recording, or a variety of compression levels like HQ, LQ, like what we're seeing on the RED cameras currently. Honestly, the ZR feels like a no-brainer for wildlife filmmakers. Nikon has quietly built what I think is the strongest lineup of wildlife lenses out there. Everything from lightweight telephotos to those monster super tele primes. If you're a wildlife shooter, you're basically spoiled for choice. And the Z mount itself is fantastic. Yes, Nikon's native Z glass is excellent, but because of the short flange distance, you can adapt all kinds of lenses, classic F-mount glass, and even some third-party options like E-mount. It opens up a whole world of possibilities. The sky's really the limit here. Pair that flexibility with the technology Nikon has packed into the ZR at this price point, and it's hard not to see the value. At the end of the day, what this camera gives you is freedom. The freedom to focus less on technical limitations and more on unleashing your creativity in the wild. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, remember to like, comment, share, and subscribe. And you can also support my channel by buying me a cup of coffee, link in the description down below.